host, Ryan Miller, and for the past 15 years, I've helped hundreds of people to raise millions of dollars for their funds and for their startups. If you're serious about raising money, launching your business, or taking your life to the next level, this show will give you the answers so that you too can enjoy your pursuit of making billions. Let's get into it. In this week's episode, I bring on celebrity angel investor Marc Portney. Marc has been all over the television with his products, his advice, and his capital. He's even been on the hit TV series All American Makers with other celebrity judges, including Daymond John. Join us as he walks you through what is required to deal with suppliers and manufacturers as you build your prototype overseas. You don't want to miss it. Plus, Marc walks us through some of the pitfalls that founders face dealing with imports, brokerage, and legislation, but more importantly, how he helps you navigate all of that mess to reduce your prototype costs by up to 20%, guiding both funders and founders in our pursuit of making billions. Here we go.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Making Billions. I'm your host, Ryan Miller, and today I have one of my dear friends, Marc Portney. Marc is an American entrepreneur, investor, and business advisor. He's the president of Global Source Infrastructure Partners. Something really cool about Marc is he was one of the celebrity angel investors on the Science Channel hit show All American Makers. What this means to many of our listeners, and especially the founders who are tinkering and inventing, if you're an inventor, you got to meet this guy. So Marc, welcome to the show, man.
Thanks, Ryan. How you doing?
Oh, I'm doing awesome, man. Thanks for calling in. Where are you calling from?
Right now, I'm about 15 minutes outside of Manhattan. I was born and raised in Queens, New York.
Man, well, you have one of the coolest stories, and boy, did it ever work out well for you. I mean, you've taken that journey of the entrepreneur from all the highs to lows, and you came out on top, man. I got to say, this is one impressive story. So, before we get into all the cool stuff that you're working on, which is very cool, you're going to want to hang in there to listen to exactly what Marc's got going on today. But I think what's most important and inspiring is telling your story about how it started. How did you get into this industry of manufacturing, sourcing, and so on? Maybe walk our guests around the world in how did it start for you, and then bring us up to today.
Well, I don't know if it's exciting, but I'm just gonna let you have it between the eyes. Yeah. My parents got divorced, and I was 13 years old. My father had nothing to do with me because I went to visit him on the weekends, and he was like, "What am I going to do with this kid? I'm a single dude now, and I'm looking for girls." So this kid's busting up my style. Yeah. So he said, I had some cousins that owned a plant store, like plants and flowers, like that. So he says, "Hey, you know what? I'll send the kid there, and he'll sweep the floor, and he'll just do whatever it is." Yeah. At this point, I mean, I don't want to fast forward, but I had no idea I was going to be an entrepreneur. I had no idea. I just didn't know. 13, what do you know? Yeah. So I got a job. It was $1 an hour, and I swept up all over the place and did that for a good long time, carried the plants to the ladies' cars, and it was good. I loved working hard. That's what I discovered. I loved it. It was like a drug. Yeah. Like I couldn't wait to get back to work. I couldn't wait to start. So that was a little bit of a hint. Another friend of my father's had a bigger plant store and a bigger flower store, and he said to me, "I will double your pay." I said, "Get the fuck out of here! $2 an hour? I'm in. Pull up the limo. Let's go." So. I jumped over there. I thanked my cousins for the job, and I went to work for this guy. Probably at this point, I was probably 16 years old. And I started working there, and he says, "Listen, you're going to sweep the floor. You're not going to talk to customers. You're just going to sweep the floor, water the plants, clean up. That's it." Yeah. Well, one night there was these two customers that came. They were redoing their house with plants. And you have to remember, this is, oh my God, 40 years ago? Yeah. Like 40 years ago. And the guy was upstairs, my boss. He was counting the money. And he said to me, you just stay down here and watch the place. So I was sweeping, doing what I was told. These two guys walked in. There was nobody else to help them. The boss comes down. There's a pile of merchandise in the middle of the floor. It was back in the day, 40 years ago. I banged them out for $3,500 worth of plants and planters and nonsense and plant food. Yeah. So he goes, what's all this mess in the middle of the floor? I said, no, I was helping these customers. Nobody else was around. They were asking me questions. So I just sold them $3,500 worth of stuff. The guy goes, that's it. No more sweeping. You're only talking to customers. Yeah. So that's where I started to hone my craft. Right. Nice. So from there, I ended up working there for the next, oh my God. But I worked 9 to 9, 7 days a week. Right. Literally for a decade. Yeah. So I never took off. I had no need. I had the drug in me, and I couldn't stop. I went to college, but I went to college in the day. And I went back to the plant store during the day because I had to make the money. Everybody else was a starving college kid. I was not, because I went back and broke my ass every day. The minute I tried to pack all my classes in early, and then as soon as I got out midday, I went right to the plant store and worked all the way to 9 o'clock. And that's how I did it. Yeah. So this was the turning point. So I go to school for accounting, and I'm working in an accounting firm. It happens to be the accounting firm that represented the plant store. The guy opens up a New York corporation. He was in Jersey. He opened up a New York corporation, opened up a store, and it wasn't doing well. Yeah. He comes to an accounting meeting that I happened to be at because I was trying to make, a proper living, right? As a pencil pusher, which I despised, side note. And then he came to the meeting and he goes, I'm on this lease personally for a few $1 million. I need to sell it. Mm-hmm. So I kept my mouth shut. I sat at the meeting, kept my mouth shut, and let it all adjourn. I went to the store and I went to meet him, and I go, I've got a buyer for you. He goes, you do? So quickly? I said, yeah. I said, it's me. He goes, you? What the fuck are you going to do? So I said, listen, I'll pay you, I think it was $8,000 a month. Yeah. This was in the 40 years ago, maybe 35 years ago at this point. Right. And I'm terrible with timelines. But anyway, I told him that I didn't tell him this. I just said, I'll make the payments and I guarantee to buy the merchandise from you for a 10% VIG. So he was making 10% on his merchandise, and he was getting off the lease personally, and I was going to pay him $8,000 a month. I forgot the term, but for $8,000 a month, just keep it there. Yeah. I used the company's revenue. I took a chance. I used the company's revenue to pay the $8,000 a month and bootstrap the deal. That was my first taste of like blood. It was just it was unbelievable. I can't even describe to you the feeling. So here, my wife married an accountant. I thought she married a professional. And now I'm back in the plant business, but I took over this business, and we turned it from a $300,000 loss the first year to a $300,000 profit. So it's a $600,000 turnaround, and that was only in the first year.
Yeah, and that's your first, we'll say, leverage buyout. Your possibly the vendor take back arrangement. You borrowed this receivable.
And the funniest thing is, because I was a young punk, I was in my 20s. I had like a 6-month-old daughter. Yeah, I was. Dang, man. It's you look back and you laugh how stupid you are when you're young, Yeah, and
agreed.
So the accountant comes in the end of the year. He goes, "Congratulations, you turned the place around, and you made a $300,000 profit." And here I am, 20 years old. I'm wet behind the ears, and I go, "Okay, where is it?" He goes, "Come with me." Yeah. I said, "Okay." So he literally walks me around the store, and he says, "You see these silk flowers, these vases, this inventory? Here it is, your $300,000." And I said, "How the fuck am I going to spend it?" He says, "You got to turn it into more money." Yeah. And that was another big aha moment for me. Just because you make it doesn't mean it's in your hand. It's right. But I know it's elementary for your listeners, but as a young 20-year-old punk, this was a revelation,
Yeah. Yeah, and often when you're selling products to that point, especially a lot of these founders that want to do this and they have to own inventory, whether it's raw materials or actual goods for sale. If you can't manage your inventory, you got cash. It's all sitting on your shelves, right? You can't spend that. You got to turn it. You got to flip it, right? So inventory turnover, inventory management, all these things that you started to open your eyes. A young guy, you're like, I'm just figuring it out. Where's my 300 grand? And they're like, it's sitting on your shelves.
Exactly. They were like, you want to buy these this new line of silk flowers? Yeah, sure. Why not? We're busy, right? What I didn't realize is I was sending my money off to prison.
Yeah, it's locked up until you unlock it through sales. Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, but it, you can't. First of all, when you're 20, you're cocky. Nobody can tell you anything.
Yeah.
So you have to take a punch in the face before you listen. So that was my punch in the face.
Yeah.
And then so that worked out. I mean, it was a great experience. And then I sold the company, and then I just moved on to the next adventure.
Yeah.
At this point, I realized that I was unemployable, right? Yeah. Because, and I don't mean unemployable in my abilities. I mean, once you don't have a boss and you taste that freedom, holy shit, Ryan, it is unbelievable. So I always tell everybody, I'm 60 today.
Hey, but congratulations, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So I tell everybody, I don't work for money. And they go, what? I work for freedom. Yeah. That's all I work for. Yeah. I don't work for money. How many pairs of pants am I going to wear today? How many shirts am I going to wear today? How many meals can I eat? It gets to a point of stupidity for me. I know there's people out there that want to drive the Lamborghinis, and God bless all of you, but it's not me. Okay. But it's just, to me, that's the way I see it. Freedom is the key here. Freedom, not the money. The money will buy you freedom, not stuff. And young guys don't know shit about that yet, but they will as the tide turns. So listen to an old fuck. Listen to an old fuck.
Yeah. No, I love that. So here you are. You started just Brandon. You're a young guy trying to get to work. You found work. It didn't matter what it was. It was like a drug to you, I believe, is what you said. I certainly agree. I understand the value of hard work. I have an 8-year-old, and I was telling her about the privilege of working. And I'm like, look, there's people right now praying to God for a job. I said, do not shame working hard. That's not what we do in this family. It's not what we do in our life. This is a value that you have. It's not a thing you do. It's not a place you go to. It's a value that I find a lot of people in their pursuit of making billions, as also just starting a company, whether you're a funder or a founder. A lot of these people they have this insatiable appetite to work hard. They see it as a privilege. And like you and so many others, I would agree that you are wired for entrepreneurship, man. It's that work for freedom. That's what drives everybody. All these entrepreneurs are like, man, I cannot stand the thought of dying at the desk, right? Like we were talking about offline, like, hey, like 9 to 5, you want to go die in a cubicle and work 30 years? That is for somebody. It's not for everybody.
Bosses suck. That's number one. Let's start there. Bosses suck. Number two, people say to me, aren't you nervous? Like this was over many, many years. Aren't you nervous? Because if you could go out of business any minute. And I said, let me explain something to you. So I have 100 customers, right? Mm-hmm. So I have 100 different sources of income. You work for, I don't know, ABC company. I don't want to call anybody out. Don't give a shit. You work for ABC company. You've got one source of income. They fire you, you're 100 times more fucked than me. If I lose 2 customers, 3 customers, 4 customers, that's 4% of my income. It doesn't matter. Of course, the numbers vary, but I'm just giving an example to the people. And I'm so insulated in my mind because I have so many different sources of revenue and you've got only one. You look at it like, they're putting a blanket around me. But what if they kick you out of bed? You're done. It's over. You're the one at risk, buddy, not me.
Yep. And that's the thing that I find, having mentored many people throughout my career as well, whether in the beginning stage, I think that's one of those moments where you wake up as an entrepreneur to say, it's this fallacy that's starting a bit like there's risk in everything. Absolutely. But there's this fallacy that people, whether it's through school, I don't know where it gets in people's heads, that the safe approach is to go to university, spend a couple $100,000. I'm not shaming it. I mean, I spent my fair share as well.
Yeah.
And then get a job for 30 years and hopefully they'll give you a watch at the end. And to your point, man, you're saying, well, look, I disagree. I don't think that is the safe path. In fact, I find that entrepreneurship is the least risky path, but there's still risk, and you got to know what you're doing, and you got to.
But you have to be that. You have to be that type, Ryan. You know what I mean?
That's
There's
a good
people
point.
that are perfect for the goal. You got to like politics and horse shit, and you got to like to sit in there and try to fight for your spot. That's not for me. Okay, I don't give a shit. Obviously, the listeners might have put together that I don't really give too much of a shit about what people think of me. And that's necessary. The other fallacy is people are like, I'm going to start my own business. I'm going to sleep late. I'm going to eat bonbons. Let me tell you something. When you start your own business, it's the absolute opposite. I'm 60 years old. I own 2 or 3 companies. And I'm telling you, do you know what I was doing at 3:30 this morning? I was chatting with China. That's what I was doing. I was breaking my ass. The other fallacy is that it's just the secret. Everybody's like, what's the secret? Want the secret? Right here and now. A billionaire exclusive for you, Ryan. Break your ass. Wake up in the morning and break your ass. And I'm telling you, you go through, and I don't care who it is, every single one of them wake up and work. There is no easy road. There's one easy road. I take it back. If somebody can win the Mega Millions or the Powerball, that's just dumbass luck, and that's great. God bless you. I wish it was me. But unfortunately, my number wasn't called on the lottery, so I have to wake up and break my ass every day. So that's the reality of what it is, in my opinion.
You know, to echo that point, that was an early expression. I love that we're geeking out over hard work. This is a value I deeply hold as well. And one of the things in the early days when I was a college guy and I couldn't wait to get out there and just, snap necks and cash checks. And I was like, hey, man, there was one saying that said, everything in this world has a price. If you do not pay the price for success, you will pay the price for failure. And listening to you, Mark, I would say you perfectly emulate that thing. Is saying, look, either way, nothing comes for free, man. Like you pay the price either way. But if you're willing to put in the work, and I want people around the world to really hear what Mark is saying. If you're willing to put in the work, that is paying the price for success. There's no easy path. And I agree with what Mark's saying. There's no easy path. But the beauty about hard work is you're making the decision of what price you pay. If you don't work hard, that's making a decision too, but you don't get to choose your struggle. That struggle's thrust upon you. If you want to sit around and play video games and check out, a 9 to 5, that's fine, but don't complain.
Well, let's talk about the inventors. You brought up
let's talk about inventors.
You brought up the inventors at the beginning. I can't tell you how many inventors that think they're going to make up the next left-handed widget and they're just going to sell it for $50 million. Dude. You make it, you got to make prototypes, you got to get it around, you got to pitch your ass off, you got to start a company or license it. It's a 2-year process minimum, 3-year before you see one dime. So, you're watching too many movies, dude. If you think that you're going to make a left-handed widget and some asshole's going to come and pay you $50 million for the idea, it does happen from time to time, but it's the same as winning the lottery. Yeah. So I say that to inventors, I say that to entrepreneurs, but nobody's a victim. Get up, break your ass, and just take it in the face and say, thank you, sir. Can I have another?
Yeah, that's right.
Where did this come from? I'm a 4-year graduate of New York Military Academy. Just so you know, that was my high school career. We learned a saying, and that saying was, no excuse, sir. I know it sounds crazy, but if something's not done and they come to you, I don't have an excuse. It just wasn't done. I will do it. And the bottom line is, dispense with the horse shit and do what you're supposed to do. And that's why I tongue-in-cheek said about politics and all this other stuff. Like, oh, he was supposed to do it. I will do it next week. Blah, blah, blah. No. And that's no excuse, sir.
That's right.
I would like to tattoo it on my forehead, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I love it, man. So that extreme ownership that was instilled in you at a young age in the military academy, that's one of the reasons why I love anybody that's come out of that sector. Lots of love and respect, man. So, here you are. You mentioned you were talking about China. You were mentioning that people, in manufacturing and all of these things. Maybe if you can walk our listeners through exactly, when I as the proverbial everybody listening, those people who want to invent and manufacture something, great idea, but don't know how to commercialize it. Maybe walk people through exactly like what you've seen working with other inventors. What's required to get it from ideation all the way to commercialization?
Well, I mean, if there's two ways you can go. You can either license it, which means you're going to bring it to a large company that's already in that space and they already have the fingers of distribution. That's one way. You make less money, or you can monetize it by starting a company and doing that. But if you don't have, think about how much money you need to start it and then multiply by 3, because that's how much you're going to need. Because I'm telling you, you think it's the same as building a house. I built my house, and whatever the budget was, it's always 30% more. Always. There's always something that goes down, no matter what. Same for business. Things come up that you may not, that you even may know about, may not know about, but it's always going to cost extra money. So, the monetizing is not an easy path. So finding someone that's already on that path and can help you and maybe even license it. But even licensing, once you give it to the person, they still have to market it and do all this stuff. It's a multi-year proposition, period, exclamation point. It's a marathon. It's not a sprint. So that takes care of the inventors. But one of the companies that I own is called Global Source Infrastructure Partners. And we are a worldwide sourcing organization. So we bring in components for all of the big boys, everybody that you can imagine, but they don't want me yelling it out because they don't want anybody to know the secret sauce. And we sell to Amazon aggregators. Use us. You know what an Amazon aggregator is? The big boys that they buy companies and they aggregate them, and then some of them are in the billions. Yeah. We actually are their sourcing arm, but are under an actual NDA, not to say who it is, because they don't want to share the secret. Some of them have sourcing departments, but use us to insert. Anyway, consumer products, metal, glass, anything like that, we can bring it in from overseas. We have a very unique model, very unique. Last year, there was a shipping channel debacle. I know most people in business know about the container shipping problems that we had in the third and fourth quarter.
The Evergrande or whatever got lodged in the Panama Canal.
The containers went from 4,000 to 22,000, same container. So, and then they were getting stuck at the ports and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I lost 7 figures in that little debacle. But if I lost 7 figures, and I'm here to tell the tale, other people got beat up too. So that led me to my model that I've been doing for about 6 months now, and we are putting on client after client after client. What's the model, Ryan? The model is that they send us 2 samples, or everything else is on us. We send it to China. We get a quote. We return the quote. If the quote is good, we get you a counter sample. If the counter sample is good, we're off to the races. The pricing is to your back door. You don't have to deal with logistics, HTS codes, anything like that. We handle everything. If the freight goes up, my problem. If the freight goes down tremendously, we'll have a discussion that says, listen, your $3.50 just became $3.10 because the containers came down tremendously. So that model, there's nobody that's not jumping on this model because they have gotten a good bruising from last year. Even the big boys. So we're getting some really, really, really big opportunities that I thought may not be around, but they're there. They do not want to deal with the shipping channels, and we do. We have our own staff in China, and so we're set to go. I mean, the factory owners come to my kids' weddings. They stay in my house for holidays.
Yeah,
pre-pandemic, of course.
Yeah. So, and I want to for a lot of our long-term listeners, we talk about the two most valuable assets under management have nothing to do with money. It's your reputation, your relationships. And, you know, as you just said that, you say, look, I got relationships in China. These people stay, you know, they come to my kids' weddings. They stay at my house. Building that relationship with people is so critical. Now, I'd love to just transition into that. Now, a lot of the work that you do, you bring in manufacturing parts. You deal with manufacturers in China. And a lot of inventors, maybe they can figure it out, but they won't get the scale that you're able to get, or the discounts you're able to get, or the relationships that you've already formed over your career. So it may be for some of our inventors, they may just be in better shape to work with someone like you who can just source all of the products and everything that they need. And then, you know, done deal. It's easy, right? Starting a company and manufacturing something is tough enough as it is. So what you need is someone like Marc on your team to help you with that manufacturing, bringing stuff overseas, dealing with, like you said, 1 year as an example, you can get spanked if you don't know what you're doing, right? You got spanked and you do know what you're doing. Imagine someone had no clue.
Spanked.
Yeah,
no, I'll tell you why I got spanked. I got spanked because military school is instilled in me. Yeah. I quoted them when containers were $4,500 each. They went up to $22,000. I would not raise the customer. I would not do it. And the differential was $1 million. And I took it right in the ass. And I said, thank you, sir. Can I have another? And that's what I did, because I made a deal, and I live and die by the deal. Just to clarify something at the beginning, it's not just inventors, it's large companies, it's anyone that's bringing anything in from overseas. And if you're listening and you're thinking, oh, you know, should I do this? I'm doing the upfront investing. You're investing 2 samples. After that, all the information is yours for nothing. Maybe you're importing 100 containers a month. Why wouldn't you want somebody for no cost to let you know if you're manufacturing properly? At least a checkup. And then, you know, once we go on and they see that I'm the real deal, you know, most people hate the internet. I love the internet. You could Google me, man. Google me. Marc Portney scandal. Marc Portney stole my money. Go right ahead. Enjoy yourself, because it doesn't exist, and it will never exist. I'd rather take $1 million where the sun don't shine than do wrong. I was the only vendor that didn't raise this customer. The only vendor, their largest vendor, and the only vendor that said, no, I quoted you, I'm staying. That's what's happening.
Dang. So that massively boosts your reputation. I tell anybody that wants my advice, those are the first lessons out of my mouth. In fact, that was the very first episode on the show. As I said, what's the most important thing I could teach people that I've found in my career? It's saying guard your reputation in your relationships with your life. Don't ever do anything that would compromise your reputation, meaning don't be dishonest. Do a good deal. If you give your word, whether it's written or not, stick to it. So
do what you say, and say what you do.
That's
okay.
Right.
Don't worry. Don't worry. When you die, your kids are going to spend the shit out of your money. Don't worry about it. You don't have nothing to worry about. They're going to spend the shit out of it. But the one thing that you take with you, the one thing is your reputation.
That's right.
Was I an asshole, or did I care about people around me and did the right things? Because I'm telling you, and I'm not writing proverbs or anything. I'm just telling you that it comes back. It does. Yeah. And I'm the most cynical guy in the world. And I'm telling you, shit like that comes back. Yeah. I treat every person that works for me and has worked for me like a family member.
That's awesome.
I will take the hit before my employees do, or anybody that I work with. And that's the God's honest truth. And try to find me different. I challenge anybody out there. Go ahead.
I love it. Absolutely, man. And I hope you hear the confidence in Marc's voice about his own reputation. He's like, go ahead and search it, man. I'm squeaky clean. I'm feeling good. You want to work with me? You don't want to work with me? Either way, it's up to you. However, you know, managing my reputation, my relationships has brought me as in you brought you this success so far. So what I want to talk about, if we can transition to a lot of our listeners around the world, is saying like, hey, like you're a guy who offers how to help these entrepreneurs. What is some of the benefit? Like, what does that look like for those people who are listening that are thinking, yeah, I want to manufacture something. Maybe I should reach out to Marc. What's the benefit to them? Maybe walk us through the benefit of somebody who's starting out. What do they get when they get to work with you as a partner? I mean, you mentioned no money down. Walk us through a little bit of your partnership model.
Well, they should be a little bit along the way. I'm not going to take a prototype or a napkin because that's just too much work. I've learned it, and there's only so many hours in the day. So I don't want to mislead anybody. But the reason they go with us is because, number one, right off the bat, we can save them 10, 15, 20%. When you're doing tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, that money is absolutely monstrous.
That's a lot.
My margin is built into that price. You don't know anything about anything. So, and it takes all of the import and manufacturing and quality assurance and inspections and all of that nonsense. It takes it away from you. Do you know how many people I talk to and I go, who gave you the HTS code, which is what you pay tariffs and duty on? They go, oh, the factory did it. I said, why? Yeah. I mean, I'm saying it needs to be properly categorized. They don't have a horse in the race. They have no skin in the game. So if you got to pay 30% duty because they miscategorized it, they don't give a shit. Yeah, it's those pair of eyes that you need on stuff like this. We do it all day long. This is what we do.
Nice. So the logistics game you can lose your shirt. It sounds like there's so many of these tiny things, like just that one example of I'm sure hundreds. That one example is saying, look, that's one. Add up all these things. You want to try to do it yourself. Good luck, man. It could be the kill shot on your idea because it just massacred your.
Plus we know stuff. We know stuff that you may not know yet. June 14th, they just came up with that China's not allowed to export cotton. I know you're going to get all kinds of letters that I just boil everything down to I take all the bullshit out of it and I just tell you what's what. That's so if you want to write in, go screw yourself. Yeah. But the bottom line is, they had a major issue with child labor, and they picked cotton. So what happened was, they might not know that, and I just said no to an 800,000 piece tampon deal because they had to be out of organic cotton. And when they come, they're good out of China. The Chinese factory's not going to tell you. So when you get to the U.S. side, immediately it gets pulled for examination. Yeah. They charge you for that. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Then right after that, they send it right back where it came from. Goodbye. And they send it back to China. You could be caught for the freight, the whole amount of the goods, and eat the whole thing.
Wow.
And that's one little thing. You can get pulled for a VACUS exam anytime you want. It's $2,500. Guess whose back that's on? You. Guess whose back it's on if I do it? Me. And so you're basically insulated from all the bullshit and saving 20%. Anybody who doesn't do this is a moron. Yeah. I mean, I'm just being straight with you. And this isn't a sales pitch. I could give two shits. I mean, if you want to make money, do it. If you don't want to make money, go sit in your mother's basement. I don't care.
Yeah. No, I love it. And I am starting to see just the conversations that we have. Man, it's one thing to have an idea, but like you said, commercializing, that changes everything. Like, you get a prototype. That's not really what I'm into. Maybe you got to get that. But when you're ready to scale, that's a whole different game. And there's so many, I would say, pitfalls that are waiting around you in these dark corners that you can fall down and it's game over. So working with professionals is key, like yourself.
Of course, but Ryan, it's also the big boys. You'd be shocked how many big boys are just like phoning it in. You know what I mean? Yeah. There's so much money to be squoze out of that orange. It's unbelievable. When we look at shit, I'm like, you're $100 million company and you don't see that? Oh my God. Because they're $100 million company. They need somebody to focus on that and that only. And I'm not saying the sourcing people don't write in. The sourcing people suck. I'm just saying that they're bringing in $100 million worth of merchandise. You're busy. But to have a fresh pair of eyes, to take a shot at it. I'm not looking to replace anybody. I'm looking to supplement. I'm looking to help your sourcing department if you're big. And I'm looking to be your sourcing department if you're small. So it works. It works no matter which way the pendulum swings.
I love that. And I was kind of doing some research on you, and I noticed on your website you talk about, hey, you can hire me as a consultant. You can hire me to do a lot of stuff, speaker, consulting, all these different things, business. And one of the things that you mentioned, I think our guests really are interested in, who are selling products, are the best ways. What have you found that helps you to get into big box retail? Now that you've got a product, they're working with you. Now they got to get it on shelves.
Yeah, that's a matter, and it goes right back to you, Ryan. You're preaching from the mountain. You're doing it right. It's all relationships. It's and not necessarily a relationship with the customer. It's a relationship with a rep that calls on them every day. My Walmart guy lives in Bentonville. Lives in Bentonville. He worked for Walmart for 25 years. It's kind of like having an IRS agent do your tax return, because they know exactly how to do it because they lived it for so long. So it's back to your principles. It's the relationship game. And, how do you find them? You break your ass. Back to mine. You break your ass. What do you do? Try to get a buyer on the phone. I mean, today it's much harder, but back in the day, I would call a buyer at Toys R Us. I would say, who's your favorite rep? Who does the most business? And call Jim Smith. He's the best. I love him. Oh, do you have his number? Yeah, of course. And gave me his number, and I called Jim Smith, and then I flip it on him. I go, Joan from Toys R Us told me to call you, and he's like, Toys R Us, and I'm just leveraging one on the other, and and then by the time I can get on the phone, I'm going to win them anyway. So it's just really living by the seat of your pants in that regard, but using leverage from a phone call that you had. Joan from Toys R Us didn't know me from Adam or could give a shit about me, but I dropped her name on the rep, big time rep, to get him to take my stuff because Joan told me, and that's the craftiness of entrepreneurship. I'm not so sure you can teach that shit. I'm not so sure. I mean, you don't go to college and learn that stuff. You don't. You can't.
So if you try to bootstrap it, it's just trying to get buyers on the phone, finding who the reps are, or they work with you. You got the relationships, and you're off, right? So there's
but with the internet, it's a whole different thing. I know I sound like I'm 100, but it's a whole different thing. The guys, they can go online now and find everything and anything. So I just happen to have the relationships from back in the day, so I don't really need to do that. But if you're doing it from scratch, there's sales organizations out there, and you can find them online. I mean, and then just put them through their paces. Who else do you rep, and who do you sell it to? And just kind of mini interview them. If they're super big, they're not going to put up with that. But if they're reasonable size, they will. Yeah,
that's absolutely incredible. So as we wrap things up, maybe you can just is there anything else that you think our listeners could take away from this? I mean, working with you solves a lot of problems. It de-risks the thing. You get a 20% on average, a 20% reduction in a lot of your costs, but also mitigate risks. So that being said, anything else that you think our listeners may want to hear?
I mean, the website is globalsourceip.com, globalsourceip.com. And then you could just take a look around, reach out to us. We're happy to help. I mean, I don't do every deal, but people leave from a conversation with me much richer than they were. I mean, I could probably be richer than I am now because I give a lot of shit away. My partners yell at me, but I don't care. I don't care.
Yeah, you provide an immense amount of value, and I think that further enhances your reputation and your relationships, and you've found a way to just add a lot of value. And I love that you're a very unique individual. Not only, I love your personality, the no nonsense, the hard hit in New York. I love that. Makes me miss New York back in the early days of my career. So if we have those takeaways from Marc, hard work can feel like a drug in a positive way. No, we're not advocating drugs, but we are advocating working really hard until it just blows your mind and takes you to a new level of enjoyment in your career. So learn how to appreciate hard work. And more importantly, find the right reputation. What do you want to be known for? And more importantly, the right relationships. Even if that's Marc Portney or anybody, this is a relationship game. You do those things, and you'll be well on your way in your pursuit of making billions.
Wow, what a show. I hope you enjoyed this episode as much as I did. Now, if you haven't done so already, be sure to leave a comment and review on new ideas and guests you want me to bring on for future episodes. Plus, why don't you head over to YouTube and see extra takes while you get to know our guests even better. And make sure to come back for our next episode where we dive even deeper into the people, the process, and the perspectives of both investors and founders. Until then, my friends, stay hungry, focus on your goals, and keep grinding towards your dream of making billions.